Colonel Potter, sir. My last wish is to be buried in my mother's wedding gown.
I've seen these Dodgers for 40 years, all the tricks. Dismiss.
Imagine American television without MASH. It's hard to even picture. This wasn't just a popular show, it was a cultural reset. Premiering in 1972 during the final years of the Vietnam War, MASH dared to blend sharp comedy with brutal honesty about war. Set during the Korean conflict, it captured absurdity, heartbreak, and the unbreakable resilience of the human spirit. From its first episodes, MASH found its way into the hearts of millions. But what most people didn't see was what was going on behind the camera. The show evolved, sometimes clashed, and over the years, a number of beloved actors made the difficult choice to walk away. Why did they leave? Was it creative frustration, burnout, or something deeper? Today, we're taking a closer look at the real reasons why these stars left MASH. But before we dive into the drama and departures, let's rewind the clock and look at where this story actually began. Like many iconic shows, MASH didn't start on screen. It started on paper. Back in 1968, a surgeon named H. Richard Hornberger, writing under the pen name Richard Hooker, released MASH, a novel about 3 Army doctors. Based on his time serving in a mobile Army surgical hospital during the Korean War, the book combined dark, gallows humor with gritty reality. It struck a nerve, and Hollywood noticed. 2 years later, director Robert Altman turned the novel into a bold, satirical film starring Donald Sutherland and Elliott Gould. It was part anti-war commentary, part dark comedy, and it was a hit. The film won the Palme d'Or at Cannes and even took home an Oscar. But the real explosion was still to come. In 1972, CBS turned MASH into a weekly television series. Created by Larry Gelbart and Gene Reynolds, the show kept the chaotic setting and offbeat humor of the film, but gave it a beating heart. Alan Alda stepped in as Hawkeye Pierce, and his performance would become legendary. But it wasn't smooth sailing from day one. The first season struggled. Ratings were low. The show was on the verge of cancellation until CBS moved it to Saturday nights. Suddenly, the audience found it, and everything changed. MASH wasn't like anything else on TV. It mixed jokes with helicopter rotors. It used real war footage. It refused to sugarcoat the cost of conflict. Alan Alda himself became more than just the star. He helped shape the show's direction, pushing for emotional depth, realism, and character growth. But that same evolution also caused tension. Not every actor agreed with the new, more serious tone. Some felt their characters were being sidelined or oversimplified. Others had personal reasons for stepping away. But no matter the cause, MASH kept moving forward. And in doing so, it gave us some of the most unforgettable exits in TV history. Which brings us to the first, and maybe the most shocking, departure. McLean Stevenson. If you ask MASH fans what moment hit them hardest, most will point to the final scene of Season 3's finale, Abyssinia, Henry. Radar walks into the operating room, holding back tears, and says just one line. Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake's plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan. There were no survivors. The room went silent. Viewers were stunned. This wasn't just a farewell. It was a gut punch. It marked the first major cast exit in MASH history. McLean Stevenson had been a cornerstone of the show. As Colonel Henry Blake, the easygoing, often overwhelmed commanding officer, he brought heart to the chaos. So why did he leave? At first, Stevenson was riding high. Beloved by fans, a Golden Globe winner, and central to the show's early charm. But behind the scenes, tension simmered. As Alan Alda's influence grew, not just as Hawkeye, but as a writer and director, McLean felt pushed aside. He told People magazine in 1975, "I want to be number one. I want to be the guy carrying the show." It wasn't just ego, it was ambition. Stevenson dreamed of leading his own series, not just playing the lovable side character. So at the end of Season 3, he told producers he was leaving. Most sitcoms offer soft exits. A goodbye party, a transfer, maybe a promotion. But MASH wasn't like other sitcoms. In the finale, Abyssinia Henry, Blake gets his discharge papers. He's going home. The camp throws him a touching send-off. Then, in the final scene, Radar walks into the OR, eyes down, voice low. Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake's plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan. There were no survivors, no music, no warning, just silence and shock. Even the cast didn't know it was coming. Only Gary Berghoff, Radar, was told. The tears? Real. Viewers flooded CBS with letters, some outraged, others deeply moved. But co-creator Larry Gelbart stood firm. We wanted to say that not everybody gets to go home. And they did. So what happened to McClane after MASH? NBC gave him a big contract in his own series, The McClane-Stevenson Show. It flopped. Then came Hello, Larry. Worse, it became a punchline. Years later, he admitted, I took myself out of the game. He left something special, the magic of MASH, the chemistry, the writing, and never quite found it again. Though he kept working in TV, he never recaptured the love he got as Henry Blake. When he passed away in 1996, tributes poured in. Alan Alda called him a wonderful actor and a good man. Gary Berghoff remembered him as a light-hearted spirit who brought joy to everyone around him. And here's the thing. For all his regrets, McClane gave MASH one of its most powerful moments. His exit didn't just shift the tone, it gave the show its soul. He left searching for his big break. But the role he walked away from, that was the big break. And it never stopped mattering. Wayne Rogers. If you thought McClane-Stevenson's exit was dramatic, Wayne Rogers' departure from MASH was something else entirely. No farewell, no final episode, no closure. One day he was there, the next gone, and the silence around it, deafening. So what happened? Wayne Rogers played Trapper John McIntyre, one half of the dynamic duo that defined MASH's early seasons. He and Alda's Hawkeye Pierce were electric. Fast-talking, hard-drinking, troublemaking surgeons with a bond that made the show sing. It was chaos. It was comedy. It was wartime mischief with a scalpel. Fans loved it. But behind that chemistry, tension was quietly simmering. See, when Wayne first signed on, he was under the impression this would be an ensemble show, equal weight for every major character. But as the series grew, that promise started to crumble. Hawkeye didn't just become a lead. He became the lead, the voice, the conscience, the face of MASH. And much of that was thanks to Alda himself, who had become deeply involved in shaping the series behind the scenes. At first, Wayne didn't mind. He and Alda were actually friends off camera. But over time, the shift was impossible to ignore. Trapper wasn't evolving, he wasn't growing, he was just reacting. Wayne once put it plainly, Trapper didn't have much to do. He was one of two buddies. Then he became the guy who nodded at everything Alan said. That wasn't the show he signed up for. So unlike McClane, who had a headline-making exit, Wayne simply didn't come back. Quietly, respectfully, and without a scene. He didn't renew his contract after season 3. And here's the wild part. There was no contract. Wayne had never actually signed one. He was working on a handshake deal. So when producers threatened legal action, they had no case. The writers were blindsided. Season 4 was already in motion, and now they had to explain Trapper's absence on the fly. So they tossed in a line. He had been discharged while Hawkeye was away. That's it. No send-off. No party. Just gone. And fans were furious. First Henry, now Trapper. What was going on? But from this chaos came a turning point. Wayne was replaced by Mike Farrell as B.J. Honeycutt, a character written to be softer, more introspective, and less wild than Trapper. The dynamic changed overnight. Gone was the hard-drinking, fast-talking duo. In its place came something quieter, deeper, a war show that started leaning more into its heart. Ironically, MASH didn't fall apart after Wayne Rogers left. It got even deeper. Some fans still loved the wild early seasons, but others believed the show truly found its heart after Trapper was gone. And Wayne? He didn't just move on, he reinvented himself. He did a few more acting gigs, sure, but his real pivot? Finance. A Princeton grad, Wayne turned his brainpower to the stock market and crushed it. He became a regular on Fox News, gave financial advice, and made millions. Not from TV, but from Wall Street. Still, he never badmouthed MASH. He joked about it, reflected on his choice to leave, and stayed close to the cast. Alan Alda once said, Wayne is one of the smartest people I've ever worked with. I missed him a lot when he left. When Wayne passed in 2015, Alda shared this. We made a pact to give each other a hard time for the rest of our lives, and I'm sorry we won't have the chance. Wayne didn't storm out. He left with quiet dignity, and in doing so, he helped MASH evolve into something even greater. Gary Berghoff. Now, while some actors left for career moves, Gary Berghoff left for something much deeper. To millions, he was Radar, the sweet, naive company clerk with a teddy bear and a sixth sense for incoming choppers. But off camera, Gary was breaking down. He was the only actor to carry his role from the MASH movie into the series. And he poured his heart into making Radar the soul of the 4077. But by season 7, Gary was exhausted. The long shoots, the emotional pressure, and being away from his young daughter, it all caught up to him. He battled anxiety, depression, and burnout. Even with a lighter schedule, he couldn't keep going. So in season 8, Radar got the goodbye he deserved. In a 2-part send-off, he realized his family needed him more than the army did. And in the final scene, he walks away, leaving his teddy bear on Hawkeye's bed. No music, no words, just quiet. It was heartbreaking and perfect. After that, Gary stepped away from fame. He tried a spin-off. Didn't work. But he found peace elsewhere. Painting, wildlife conservation, even inventing. He holds patents, including one for a fishing tackle system. He once said, "I left for 2 reasons. My family and burnout. I wanted to pick up the pieces of my life." And honestly, you can't argue with that. Radar may have left the camp, but in every fan's memory, he never really left at all. Larry Linville. Let's talk about the man behind one of the most hated and hilarious characters on TV, Major Frank Burns. Larry Linville made Frank into the perfect villain for MASH. He was uptight, petty, jealous, and obsessed with following the rules, no matter how ridiculous they were. He was the kind of guy who'd snitch on you for not shining your boots during a war, and that's exactly why he worked. Frank was the butt of every joke, the one who everyone rolled their eyes at, the complete opposite of Hawkeye and Trapper, who were laid back, funny, and constantly challenging authority. But here's the thing. While the rest of the cast grew, Frank never did. He didn't get deeper. He didn't change. He was just stuck as the same cartoonish, angry man season after season. And for Larry Linville, a classically trained actor with real range, that was frustrating. By the end of season 5, he made a quiet decision. He was done. No fights, no bad blood, just one line in an interview. I had taken the character as far as I could go. Frank's exit was just as ridiculous as his personality. In season 6, they said he had a breakdown and was promoted to a hospital in Indiana, off-screen. But the truth is, Larry left at exactly the right time. Once he was gone, the show shifted. It matured. The humor stayed, but it got deeper. The stories became more personal, and in a strange way, Frank's departure helped MASH grow up. Larry went on to act in dozens of other shows, from Murder, She Wrote to The Love Boat. But no matter where he went, he was always remembered as Frank Burns. He passed away in 2000 at just 60 years old, but his role on MASH, unforgettable. He was the villain who made the good guys shine even brighter. David Ogden Stiers. So what do you do after losing a character like Frank Burns? You bring in Charles Emerson Winchester III. David Ogden Stiers joined MASH in season 6, and he flipped the formula. Unlike Frank, Charles wasn't a joke. He was smart, sophisticated, arrogant, yes, but never dumb. He wasn't the kind of guy you could laugh at for long. He challenged Hawkeye and BJ not with pettiness, but with class. He loved music, fine wine, and intellectual debates. And suddenly, MASH had a new kind of tension. What made Winchester different was depth. Over time, we saw his heart. He hated war. He had compassion. He treated wounded soldiers with genuine care. And his character had one of the most emotional arcs in the series, especially in the final season. Remember the Chinese POWs who played Mozart with him? That wasn't just a scene. That was art. David Ogden Stiers stayed with MASH until the very end. He refused to do after MASH, saying Charles had said what he needed to say. Off-screen, David was private. In 2009, he came out as gay, saying he had stayed silent during his career out of fear it might hurt his roles. But by then, his legacy was already sealed. He passed away in 2018 at age 75, remembered not just for MASH, but for his incredible voice work in Disney films and beyond. Loretta Swit. MASH was mostly about the guys. But let's not forget the one woman who carried the show's heart and fire, Major Margaret Hot Lips Houlihan. At first, she was written as a stereotype, the uptight army nurse, having an affair with Frank, yelling at the men. But Loretta Swit wasn't having it. She pushed back. She demanded growth. And over time, the writers listened. Hot Lips became Margaret, a strong, complex, compassionate leader. She wasn't just the female character. She became a symbol of what it meant to be tough and vulnerable at the same time. By the end of MASH, Margaret was respected by everyone. She earned her place not just in the 4077th, but in TV history. Loretta Swit stayed from the pilot to the final episode, one of only 4 cast members to do so. And even though she was asked to join after MASH, she said no. For her, MASH was complete. Today, she's still an advocate for animal rights and a proud ambassador of the show's legacy. When we look at the actors who left MASH, whether by choice or by storyline, they all had one thing in common. They knew when it was time to go. McLean Stevenson, Wayne Rogers, Larry Linville. They walked away, each leaving a hole that the show filled in new, creative ways. And then there were those who stayed, like Loretta Swit, Jamie Farr, William Christopher, Mike Farrell, and of course, Alan Alda, and helped the show evolve from pure comedy into something timeless. MASH wasn't just about war or medicine. It was about people. Broken, hilarious, passionate, frustrated, loving people, trying to survive chaos with humanity intact. Now that you've seen the full journey, from shocking exits to beautiful goodbyes, here's a question. Which MASH actor do you think had the most powerful storyline? Let us know in the comments. And if you love classic TV and behind-the-scenes stories like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out the next video on your screen right now. Thanks for watching.